Evie and her dad, who was formerly in the Coast Guard, walked along the beach near a lighthouse that was formerly a life-saving station for the deadly waters of the Great Lakes. Her dad suddenly felt weird and perceived a long-dead soul who had also been a lifesaver. Then it was gone. The next day, they found a human rib bone in that very spot. I'm Beth Ann Campbell, and this is Something Weird Happened Here. Welcome to Something Weird Happened Here, the podcast for people who love a twisted tale but aren't afraid to poke at it a bit. We share stories that are postmarked peculiar and then explore the story with curiosity and an open mind. Stay tuned after the show to find out how to submit your strange saga, and maybe we or you will share it on air. Now let's get started, because no matter where you are in this mysterious world, something weird happened here. This tale is postmarked Michigan, USA. Subject line, Ghost Hunting Memories, Part 2. Today I'm welcoming back my friend Evie for the continuation of our conversation about paranormal investigation. So let's pick up where we left off last time. So tell me, can you, what are some of the more memorable, or one of the more memorable cases that you did? Um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be because it was like so, I mean, it could be if you just found a whole lot of stuff in evidence, but or because it was just, unique or weird or something
Oof.
happened.
One of the more memorable experiences. Okay, well, I will pick one.
As I say, you want the whole list
Um,
or the top 10? Yeah.
right. I will pick one. I will say, and I'm picking this story because I had proof to follow it up with again. Okay, and because that's what I do. If I don't get proof, then it didn't happen. So, there is a town up in the tip of the thumb of Michigan called Port Hope. And there's a lighthouse there and a life-saving station, and it is the entrance. It's where Lake Huron and the Saginaw Bay meet, and it is the most deadly navigational waters in the Great Lakes because of the way that these two bodies of water come together. There's this 2 mile drop ridge. There's rocky things. It's more. I mean, there's so many horrific boat, ship.
Hence the lighthouse.
Right. It's just
Yeah.
there's so much that has happened there. And it was a very active light saving station. Like that's where if a ship blew up or blew apart or whatever happened, these life saving stations, this was before Coast Guard. This is going back before the Coast Guard was established. They were called light saving stations. So
Wow.
the people that worked there would get in their little lifeboats or little wooden boats and get out there and go out there and try to save what they could, right? And so my parents lived up there. And so my dad and I used to walk all the time around around the shore, around the lighthouse. And you always still can find things from shipwrecks. I've found boat
Wow.
parts. I've found, what do you call them, buckles from like a life vest thing. I mean, you can still find these things. So me and my dad were walking around. My dad's like, oh, my dad actually picked up on something. He's like, we were just talking. He's like, "Well, did you ever actually run into an actual dead person up here, like on the rocks?" I'm like, "Well, not a person yet, but I've picked up a lot of stuff." And we walked a little bit more around the point of land, and my dad stops. He's like, "I feel really weird. I feel really, really weird." And I guess it's more my dad's story, but for me, I was like, "Okay, hold on." And I walked over there, and it was, very, very cold, and it's like you start to feel this like thing coming down on your head, and I'm like, oh my god, dad, hold on. And I took pictures of him, and it still had a film camera at the time, so we didn't
Wow.
know what was coming out on the film camera. So I'm like, dad, there, yes, you attached, someone is attached to you, someone is here. He wants, he was a lifesaver guy. He was out there saving the people. He's out here. He wants to talk. My dad was in the Coast Guard, right? So I
Yeah.
know that he was like, hey, fellow friend, let's talk. And then all of a sudden it just disappeared and everything was gone. Of course, I couldn't develop my film. So we went back home. We told mom about it because they lived right there, right close to this point of land. And so I went out the next day because there's nothing else to do up there but walk along the beach shore on this particular, there's nothing else to do. The next day I go walking around. Well, I find a bone. Turns out it is a human rib bone
Shit.
where we had been walking and where I had taken pictures of my dad. Yeah, so I still have the rib bone. I'm so sorry, dude, but it's in a safe place. You know it is. You're with other bones. You're cool, right? Your story's been told, so we're cool. So then I got the film developed, and over my dad was the orbs, but they were the big, it was one big, like two photos of one big, dense. It was like they were standing there, like, hey, like taking pictures with each other. It was just
Wow.
there. So that one was really freaky because I've never actually found a body part to match the dead person.
Yeah, that's a
But
little.
again, I said that story because again, I have things to back it up with. I mean, but I got plenty more that are, but yeah, that's probably the most memorable for me, actually, considering everything out, every other one that I've seen.
One of the most memorable ones that I did. So I just found out really early, even in the early years with your team, that there was such a psychological aspect, even if there was something there, but the fear that people had was so intense. And probably the first, maybe it was the second, I think this was the first one where fear it was really clear to me how powerful fear is. And that was the farmhouse in Bancroft. I think I said last time it was Perry, but it was
Yeah,
Bancroft.
that one was cool. That had a lot of cool stuff going on.
So we didn't get a lot on evidence, but what was memorable for me about that one is that's the one where it was and this is my second book that I'm writing too, although it's really not even at all. It's just it inspired a story in me, but it's really not the same story. But in real life, it was a father, a mother, and they had three kids. I want to say one was like a teenager, and maybe it was a blended, like they got remarried, but I don't remember. But then they had two little kids, a toddler, like a 3-year-old, and then a baby. And I remember that the whole thing started when the wife woke up in the middle of the night and thought she saw a man, a dark shadow hovering over her bed, which is for me now, I didn't really, I mean, I kind of was aware, but didn't really understand fully what sleep paralysis was. But that's one of the very common things reported with sleep paralysis is I'm choked, I'm sat on, I'm punched, there's a dark figure. And it almost became cliche in other cases over the years because it would always be like somebody would be like, yeah, I woke up and I felt like I was choking. And I'm like, you probably have sleep apnea or it was sleep paralysis, but okay. But this scared this woman, this mom, so much. They had bought this beautiful farmhouse,
It was a cool ass
1800s. It
house.
was empty when we got there because they had moved out. It was beautiful. They had a library and it was just
Right, remember the stair, like when you were in the living room and the stairway that went up the side, and then
yeah.
the butler pantry I wanted
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean, it was
light.
just like gorgeous and it was up on this hill and there were, mature trees around and again, we didn't find a whole lot there, but what it was just to me compelling was that this woman got so scared and then some of the things that she reported because I remember the dad was like I, I don't really, I'm not really buying it. I don't want to leave, but his wife was so scared. So I remember the toys going off in the toy box. That was one thing that she reported. They reported they were cleaning the fire. There was a fireplace, I think, in the kitchen, and they were
Yeah, wasn't it
cleaning
like
it.
a fire pit or something?
Some
Wasn't it
sort
like
of
a round
something,
thing? Like
something, and then they were
that was weird.
absolutely dead certain that there was no breeze, no wind, but then the ashes kicked up, so she thought that was paranormal, and whether it was or not, I don't know. It sounded like it could have been a normal thing, but okay. The toddler was messing around on the stairs and said that somebody pushed him, and she thought it was this man that she saw, figure that she saw hovering over. So nothing that they reported seemed really obviously like I couldn't find something to explain it for. That doesn't mean it wasn't paranormal, but it just seemed like normal stuff that you experience. But it was because she was so afraid and she didn't want to stay there anymore. And so they abandoned this, not abandoned, but it was up for sale when we went there. So that's for me was one of the memorable things because it was the first time that I realized, holy shit, there doesn't even have to be anything paranormal here to have a haunting because it's your own fear is basically either creating situations or you're interpreting situations, and it's so powerful that you would leave your dream house. That's how powerful fear is. And that's why that one was memorable.
The thing with that situation, there was more what I would call atmospheric, not atmosphere in the weather, but atmospheres in the atmosphere of the house. There was more atmospheric evidence of something is not right with this place. First of all, it was on the Shiawassee River, which runs backwards.
Oh,
That's a clue.
I
It
didn't
doesn't
know that
run
it
north to
did.
south, it runs south to north in that
Wow.
area. So
Interesting.
there's that, which was my first because I did, looking up like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
that
like a
is
ley
weird.
line thing. That's kind of
Yeah.
weird. Okay, and it was very close to that river. But one of those rooms, I did have the compass start spinning and spinning and spinning, and the temperature drop like 20 degrees, and then it would go back up, and then it would spin again and drop again. Tons of black flies for no reason.
Yeah,
Flies
that
can't
was
exist
weird.
without something to feed off of, but remember all the black flies.
I do remember the flies too.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean caught like a clip, but and he's for years he's like, you got to hear this. And I will, by the way, folks, I will insert that clip right here so you can listen to it. But it's just a really little click. But then I joke with him all the time because I said that kind of sounds like your ex-husband burping, and he's like, no, it wasn't. There was nothing there. We were the only ones in there. I'm like, I just joke, but he ran it through some AI. And it said it sounded like the inner like if the inner workings of the recorder were kind of going goofy. So but it's but
Mm.
he did catch something and he insists that it was paranormal.
The only presence that I picked up on was a young boy in one of the upstairs that I can't remember, was it in a window or a door? There, the upstairs was like really crazy. Like there was a lot of, I don't know if they had built on whatever it was, but there was like a little boy standing there by a window, like he was about to be like bye and jump out the window.
So Evie,
There was
this
that.
is let me tell you why this is so weird and creepy because I don't remember that at all. And when I looked at my notes, I had nothing in there about a little boy until you just said that. This book that I'm writing, which I said is very loosely inspired by it's a family in a farmhouse, and that's about as close as it gets. But there is a story in there about a little boy, a real little boy, who almost falls out a window because it's an attic window and it's broken. The latch is broken. So I don't know if I'm like getting chills right now because I've incorporated this little boy. And I'm not saying, I know the skeptics out there, I'm not saying that maybe I didn't remember that and incorporate it, but I'm telling you, I don't remember that. I remember this as we got nothing.
And that house was, that house was two separate things. It was, yes, it had a not a haunting, it had a residual haunting of this boy that was just about to jump out a window, or it wasn't like he was getting pushed. He was standing there looking at me
Yeah.
going, okay, bye. There was that. Fair, but it was only up there.
So weird. So
The house itself, like I said, the atmospheric issues in that house, atmospheric being the paranormal stuff going on in the house that didn't actually show us any entities or anything. But the flies, the compass, the temperature drops, the river running backwards, like the house itself was tuned in to something. Now, here's where the fear comes into play. That woman was not picking up on a haunting. That black figure she was picking up on, yes, it was her fear, but she was in it. Her fear was able to feed off of the place that that house already was. And that was creating this entity for her. Her brain transmuted the bad juju in this property, in this area of this land. We knew it was bad juju property because of the, like I said, the atmospheric conditions inside the property. So there was not something wrong there in the first place. It wasn't a good place. So her brain picked up on that and put it into something she could comprehend, which
So she was
was
like
a
manifesting
scary a
something.
scary
That's
dark figure.
fascinating.
And when you
Yeah,
do that, once your brain sees something or hears something, it commits it as an actual memory and it creates it so severe and serious that you literally think you are seeing this creature. But you've what you've
fascinating.
done is taken that all that stuff you can't in your human ego comprehend, and your brain in the middle of the night, because that's when your brain can shut down and the real brain can take over, puts it into something you can relate to, which is the black figure that freaked her out.
Well, that makes perfect sense too, because even psychologically, we do so many things to distract us from our stress and our fear and other emotions. So here's this woman, she had a small kid, they just moved into a house. There's all the stress of they're doing renovations, right? We know that also always kicks up shit. She's probably sensing, she's probably sensitive. She probably can't even
Right?
doesn't know what she's sensing, so she
It had to be
just
sensitive in the first place for her brain to, yeah, pick
So
this
she
up and run with
basically,
it.
yeah, so she basically manifests this initial happening. Now, I still contend that when your toys go off in the toy box, like just once or twice randomly, which if I think this was, you know, I have a lot of things that go off. I
I do
had the
too.
had
It's
the shit
like,
s- had the shit scared out of me today because I kept hearing this voice and this beeping, and I'm the only one home. My dog's not even there, and I realized it was my husband left his phone home and somebody was calling him. But it is really an interesting because psychologically we do this. We make up shit so that we can we had a case that you didn't do. I based my first book or I didn't base it. It was it inspired, but there was a conflict between a mother and a daughter, and they were experiencing things. And I remember thinking, you're creating this stuff because it's better to have because the conflict between the two was so great. It was religion and a sort of a transgender or perhaps
ooh,
lesbian, so there was a big conflict between this very religious mother and this rebellious daughter trying to figure out who she was to who they were. I remember thinking at the time, you're just it's for some people, I think it's better to have a haunted house or to believe that you have demons in your house or that somebody's possessed than it is to deal with reality. And then so therein you then create and could create actual
you can.
and in
You
this
you
book and in my book, that's exactly what happened. The conflict created energy.
you actually can create manifestations if you put enough effort into it. Yeah.
Really just fascinating from a psychological perspective.
Yeah.
Um,
If you
you
believe
make
if you believe something hard enough, you make it true in your brain, and then your brain literally will commit it as memory, and then there's no going back.
Yeah. You said something really interesting when you were talking about this house, this Bancroft case that we did with already being on kind of this atmospheric, and it made me think of, and I kind of say this half jokingly because one of the yellow flags that over the years we would kind of like raise an eyebrow because sometimes you do get people and they're relieved that you don't find something, right? They really want to know. But if I had $1 for every time somebody told me, I think my house was built over an Indian burial ground.
Hmm.
If I had $1, because that was a red flag for me. The sleep paralysis thing was another thing, and then eventually it was people who were like, who would get a little bit angry if you didn't find like a full body apparition on video, right? They would just be like, or if you said, look, hey, I like this same lady, and it's in my book. There was a scene where so they kept hearing drums, and that we did a test where one of our team members was down in the basement. The family came home, and they were tapping on the pipes, and the mom was like, "That's it. That's what we heard. Do you hear it? Do you hear that?" Like it was validation. Like I mean, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you heard? Yes, that's exactly what we heard. And Sean was like, that's our sensitive downstairs tapping on the pipes. So, but they don't want, then they get angry, then they would get angry, right? Because it was better to have it's better to have a demon in your house than it is to have some sort of difficult thing that you don't want to deal with and face in real life. And
Yep.
unfortunately, that was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
which yeah.
did you
There's a lot to you got to get through before you can actually find the ghost.
right? I'm curious if you, during your heyday of when you were with your group and then any subsequent investigations that you've done, if you ever had, especially in those early days, if you ever had any producers or like TV producers, because Sean and I, once we started our group, we were, we had a website and we were, it was the early days, right? We about probably got approached by five different TV producers. They would email us and go, "Hey, we're from whatever," and they wanted us all always to be like really over the top. So anytime we would suggest, "Hey, like how about we do a realistic show?" Because everybody's doing the over top, and they didn't like that. But we had a
Mm,
lot of people, like legit producers reaching out because that the shows were getting so big that everybody wanted the next Ghost Hunters. I'm just curious
mm.
if you ever had anybody approach you about that.
We got invited onto a radio station out of Saginaw once. I think that was just
Nice.
me and my ex-husband at the time. Was I think it was just us two that went up there. But that was it. Nope, nobody wanted to make a TV show. Considering we were the first official paranormal investigation group in Michigan that was
Yeah,
like registered with, the ghost.
yeah,
I forget. I'd have to look it up. What the the ghost organizations and the
yeah.
paranormal organizations. Considering that, no, we never did.
Huh.
No, the radio station was our biggest famous thing,
Yeah. Yeah, we
which was
always said
good.
no. In fact, we created a couple of videos out there. One of them was kind of, introduction to us, and another one was how you can recreate like those faint little orbs that every time everybody would get one on a camera, they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's a ghost." I'm like, maybe, but it's probably dust." And we showed how you could recreate dust by doing something, but we never said yes because they wanted us to like, they would ask us like, "Do you do exorcisms?" And we're like,
Oh,
"No, of course we don't." Even if we had a situation which we really believed was a true possession, we're not qualified to do an exorcism.
no, no. The
But a
best
lot
you
of
can,
groups
unless
did.
if you want an exorcism, you have to have an exorcist, which is a priest.
Yeah.
Bottom line. If you want to appease the spirits and tell them they're cool, then bring in a medium. A medium can talk to them and hope for the best. But any random person, if you're not a Catholic priest who is certified to be an exorcist, you're not going to perform an exorcism. And I'm a witch, and I still say that.
Well, we ran
An
into
exorcism
we
is an
ran into
exorcism.
at least one group when we were on our own that actually did perform multiple exorcisms, and they were, it was not a Catholic priest, they would do them themselves, and that's when we started.
See, that's called dabbling. And see, exorcism, whether it's Catholic or not, exorcism is witchcraft. It's magic. It's working with the spirits and it's working with the beyond, which you do not dabble in. You find the right person to do the particular job that you want done, and you don't dabble. You can smudge and sage and ask Great Uncle Joe to move on as much as you want, but if you want an exorcism, you have to go to the right.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to the dead, go to a necromancer, which I mean,
You know
technically,
what? When you
necromancer.
when
But
you're hearing a group, because we went to see this particular group in a lot, they were doing like a little meet and greet, tell us about ghost hunting in a library. And when you hear them say, you have to be careful because exorcisms can mimic mental illness and vice versa. That was when I thought, yep, you're completely, first of all, not qualified, but second of all, how many mentally ill people have you exorcised that, didn't really help?
exactly, and that's why
Gotta
you
be
have to
careful.
bring in the right person for the right job. You
Yeah.
can't exorcise everyone in the house just because little Betsy's on meth.
Yeah,
No,
right.
she's
Right.
on, like, you know what I mean? Like, no, a priest is certified to do official exorcism because he
Yeah.
knows what to look for. He takes the meth out of consideration and he looks, okay, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a witch. I can talk to the dead. I commune with the dead. I invite them to dinner. We have great conversations. It's not my job to exorcise them. First of all, that's exorcism is a Catholic thing.
Yeah.
If you want that, you got to go to the right person. I'm just here to talk to your dead people and wish them the best and hope
Right.
that they move on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can't be
Um,
exercising people just because you're a paranormal investigator. Don't
yeah,
work.
I think that's when it started getting a little over the top for us, and
You
not to
just
not
can't.
to
I'm
mention
not going
the
to exercise no one. I never have. I never will. It's not my
not to
job.
not to mention that
It's above my
out of
pay grade.
right, exactly. I think we started getting a little I mean, life happens, right? And then when you
Hmm?
realize that you're starting to get into your like late 30s and 40s and you're like, do I really want to be out until 4 o'clock in the morning? And then especially with now I have my
Totally.
dog who wants my dogs at the time we were like, yeah, well, I don't care if you've been out till 4 o'clock in the morning. You're getting up to take
Yeah,
me out
sitting
or
in a damp cemetery when it's raining and you're on your knees crouched behind a tombstone and it's pouring rain and 30 degrees. I did that in my 20s and my hips still started hurting then.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
probably I would do it if it was a good, if it was
Yeah.
something legit. I would suck it up. I would play through the pain. But
I would too if it was like or
uh
like a really good famous place or if somebody really legit was like I don't know
yeah.
who else to turn to
I,
but
I would I
I
would do a
heard your
very good
show.
interview and I would be very
Yeah.
selective
Yes.
before I committed to a professional investigation
Yeah.
at this point, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it for my friends, no problem in their house, sure, but for like something like somebody emailed me and said, "Oh my God, I got it. We're
Yeah.
gonna go through the
Bye-bye.
dating process with
Yeah.
this. We're gonna
Put
have a
that out on
first
social
date.
media. See what everybody says about it
We're
because
gonna do the 3 date thing, right? We're gonna meet for coffee, then we're gonna have dinner, and then we're gonna go all the way on the
yeah.
third date. Okay, that's what we'll do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't see myself doing it, but I don't know, but it was fun and I mean, I'm glad I did it. I think it was worthwhile. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about even things like sound, just from a logistical, logical science perspective, like that, like how sound can can seem like it's coming from one direction, but depending on trees, houses, buildings, and how it bounces. So
Yep.
whenever somebody would say, "Yeah, I heard the sound coming from, over there," and I'm like, "Well, you got like an amphitheater around your house of
Right.
thick
Like
bushes."
when you do a cemetery, you have to look on a map. Where's the freeway?
Yeah,
Then when you
yeah,
get to the location, we do a weather thing. Which direction is the wind blowing? Well, okay, well the freeway is running north and south and the wind's blowing from the north to the south. We're gonna get a lot of freeways. So any
yeah,
audios that we're picking up are going to be slim to none unless somebody literally says, "Hey, what you
right.
doing?" You
Well, and
know?
that's another thing too, is that it became very clear that there were very, very few investigations that we did that what I could call like it, nothing like absolute clean, but even pretty clean because there's always ambient noise. If you're and like you said, you could be 3 miles from the freeway. If it's a heavy trucks, you're gonna pick up that your recorder
Yep.
will pick that shit up. So you just
Yep.
have to be really careful about filtering it out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um anyway, Evie, it was so fun to go down memory lane with ghost hunting with you.
Are we already on our hour? That went
We're
so
on our hour.
fast.
I know, and I know this will probably be another two episodes too, because
Hi.
but it's so just so
Yeah, that was a
fun.
good one.
Yeah, you inspired me last time I went out, and I actually realized I had bought a deck. I think I told you that I was like on Amazon, and there are just thousands and thousands of decks, and I was kind of over. But
Oh, the
one,
decks, the card decks, yeah.
yeah, so I got a deck then, and this was before we talked, but then you were talking about the Rider Waite, and I remember thinking like, why didn't I get the Rider Waite? Because that really kind of spoke to me. So I did get a Rider Waite deck, and then I realized,
Yay!
and then I realized I had two other decks. So
Yay!
I don't know where I'm going to go with it, but I just want to in my older age, I want to get more in touch with my spiritual side, and so I've got my decks cleansing with some crystals and selenite and some stuff to kind of keep them um, energy free or evil energy free, I guess. And just
Neutral.
how do you how do you how do
Neutral.
you yeah, how do you keep your decks cleansed or neutral, or do you do it like after when you're doing like actual people readings, do you clean them
Yeah,
after?
after every reading of a person, I have a certain collection of crystals and rocks uh to cleanse certain things after particular readings. Because if one reading is more love based, I'm gonna set the deck down, put my crystals on it. I'm going to put my incense over it. I'm going
Yeah.
to, but they have to resonate with what am I trying to cleanse here? I need to bring the tone down. Or if it was a
Yeah.
really severe, sad one, I'm going to kill it with rose quartz, right? Like bring
Right.
the love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And then, yeah. And other than that, though, once and it doesn't take long, it's just enough to break up an energy because, once after even after I read my own readings, I actually let them sit there on the table. The decks sit there on the table for a day with the crystals on them before I put them away. But then I put them away back in their boxes.
Yeah.
You only need the rocks afterwards, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But the one I use all the time stays in a bag, so I can take it with me anywhere. And that one always has a tiger's eye and a clear quartz in it, just for good vibe.
Yep.
But
Awesome.
I'll give you a tip.
Yeah, tell.
Okay, you got decks.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get a book, don't read the book, and don't go on the internet and don't do anything for like 3 months. But when you feel compelled to sit down and play with your deck, shuffle it as much as you can. You want it to get to know you. It's just like a tool. It's like your favorite paintbrush. It's just a tool,
Yeah.
right? It's not telling you what to do. It's just a tool of you, right?
Yep.
So you want to get to know it. So just shuffle it every day, sit it down, whatever. And then when you feel compelled to actually play with it, draw a card, then draw another card, then draw another card. Start with a 3-card spread, or you can lay them all down at once. Look at the card yourself. What colors are in there? Oh, that one's primarily red. Red might be love. Oh, what symbols are in there? Start initially to get your own personal feel and intuition working and kicking in. Because even with every book you read, intuition is still a part of it. You are the one interpreting what those images are, right? So
Yeah.
before you even open a book, play for a couple months just with the cards. Oh, wow,
Really
that guy
good.
fell off a cliff. Ooh, he took a chance. Oh, go to your book 3 months later. The fool is about taking a chance. Derp, obviously. He was
That
falling
is
off a cliff.
that is really good advice. Actually, I'm
So,
gonna do that. Yeah.
do that first. That's my advice to everyone. And honestly, that will get you better because then you go to the books and you can take their information and expand on your intuition. But tarot is intuition based. You have to build your intuition brain first. Then that will trigger your empathetic brain to get the intuitive going for other people to really feel it. Then you can go and read all the books you want. So
That is
that's my
brilliant.
advice.
Brilliant. I love
Take it for
that.
what it is. If the dude falls
Yeah.
off a cliff, he took a chance because he's looking up at the sky. He's not looking where he's going. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Love
that's
it.
my thing.
Awesome. Thanks for joining this episode of Something Weird Happened Here. If you have a twisted tale that you witnessed, experienced, or heard from a reliable source, go to bethanecampbell.com/somethingweird to learn more and submit your story. If your tale is twisted enough, we'll share it on air during one of our episodes and might even invite you to be a guest on the show. And we're not picky. Your Something Weird Happened Here could be paranormal, psychic, UFOs, near-death experiences, dreams, parallel dimensions, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, or any other weird and unexplained phenomena. We don't discriminate. If you're into paranormal mysteries that are scary, fun, and realistic, pick up a copy of my latest book, The R.I.P. Files, Case of the Demon Drums, the first in a series inspired by real cases that I, Bethany Campbell, worked on when I was a ghost hunter for nearly a decade. Case of the Demon Drums is available on Amazon and most online bookstores. And finally, we would so appreciate it if you would rate and review us on your favorite streaming platform and/or on YouTube. Thanks again, and remember, stay skeptical, but don't run towards the noise.